it is no secret that blue-white is broken in Marvel superheroes. A cursory glance at 17 Land's data shows that blue-white is by a massive, massive margin the best archetype in this set, with a 58.5% win rate, and Selesnya and Simic lagging just behind at 56.7 each. At the other end of the spectrum we have RAKDOS, with a 51.6% win rate, the lowest of any two-colour archetype in the last 2 years of limited Magic. So it stands to reason that in order to get the edge in Marvel superheroes, I'd want to play some combination of blue, white and green, and avoid red and black like the plague, which is exactly what everyone thinks. See, the beauty of limited Magic is that it's self-balancing. If everyone knows blue and white are good, they'll all be fighting over the blue and white cards, leaving decent cards in the other colours untouched, as they'll want to avoid drafting themselves into a weak colour. But if you notice the colours being ignored or disrespected, you can hop into that lane and scoop up all the secretly strong cards in that colour for yourself. The issue with that in Marvel is the colour power disparity is so significant in this set that the common consensus is that red is basically unplayable. Black is rare reliant, and if your draft doesn't touch either blue or white, or at least green, there won't be any red power for you to get past. But I think people are missing a trick here, and I'll explain why. For the past week, I've been hard forcing RAKDOS on MTG Arena to understand for myself why the archetype is bad, if it can ever be good, and what makes it tick. I've come to the conclusion that it is actually one of the strongest and trickiest archetypes to build. The thing is, all the cards are extremely synergy reliant. Although they're underpowered on their own, you can combine them to set up a slow but inevitable engine of value that eventually overpowers the highly efficient but ultimately limited tempo that blue-white provides. I also think that 17 Land's data has hampered people's ability to draft game plans, leading to decks where all the cards are indeed high quality, but don't necessarily share a game plan or vision for how this deck is going to win a game of Magic. The thing is, yes, Hero in Training is a good card, but it doesn't inherently do much in the way of winning. At the end of the day, it's a 2/2 body which can't really punch through anything by itself. Compare that to Hydra Assault Bot, a card that doesn't do anything at all on its own, but combine it with a Hawkeye Young Avenger, or an artifact or villain generator, and you've got 2-mana machine gun your opponent hates to, but has to remove. I know that people won't be able to resist starting their draft with what they know to be a B tier card in blue or white, and they're almost guaranteed to find one in their opening pack. Blue-white has over 11 commons above a B-, where red-black has only 1. And because people are so loath to move away from their first couple picks, especially in person, this will lead to a highly congested table all fighting to stay in their blue, white or green lane, allowing me to select exactly which red and black cards I need to round out my game plan. With all this in mind, I showed up at Tuesday night draft tonight with the intention of hard forcing RAKDOS to see just how far I could take this idea. When I arrive, all I hear is people arguing about the set when someone says,
"Red's a redeemable, right? Can we all agree on that at least?"
eliciting a murmur of agreement. I don't want to reveal my strategy to them, so without much further ado, let's jump into our first pick. So our first pack looks pretty much like the average Marvel pack in this format. 4 cards in blue-white above a B, and 1 blue card, the Wondrous Wasp, that's the rare, sitting at an A. But we're hard forcing, which means it's between Hydra Assault Robot and Baron Strucker. Although both cards can play a solid role in our RAKDOS decks, the Hydra Bot is often something you want just a 1 or 2 of, and it's pretty easy to get past them late. The Baron, on the other hand, is an uncommon, and it really just does everything you want in a red-black villains deck. Cheapens your villains and allows them to connive. And curving this into Moonstone or Madame Mask feels really, really good, so it's the Baron for me. Pick number 2, and we get past the highest win rate card in the set, the superhero Civil War. I almost can't believe my eyes when I open this pack, because I genuinely can't imagine what someone would pick over this card. Maybe a monocolored A+ bomb like Leader or Captain Marvel, perhaps. Maybe they didn't like the colors red and white, but either way, I'm extremely happy to be seeing this card. And one of the main reasons I like red in this format is because of the Stark Industries Executive, this unassuming little red common, which is actually an excellent source of fixing and gives you a turn 2 play, and they often go quite late as well. Obviously Lightning Strike is also a great card. I'm hoping to maybe wheel the RAKDOS black-red land. but it's a clear Civil War here. It's easily splashable in Rakdos and will basically be an auto win if we ever get to resolve it. So yeah, slamming the superhero Civil War there. Next up, we have a pretty wide palette of cards to choose from. We've got Lightning Strike, we've got a Claw, the Red Room Recruit I really like, and also, of course, the Stark Industries Executive. If I was drafting all colours, the white card, Agent Maria Hill, would be a clear pick here. It's just an insanely strong card. Because we're forcing, I have to make a tricky decision. The Executive is a nice way to secure my fixing for the Civil War, and also plays into the artifact sub-theme. You know, with a Hydra Assault Robot, you can make a treasure each turn if you're in a board stall and ping your opponent down. The Red Room Recruit is also really good as a source of early card selection and pseudo-fixing. Well, I like to think of card selection as getting better the more conditional cards you have. So for instance, if you have an off-color, you know, green-red card that you can't play, your Connive effectively allows you to choose that card that you can't play as a discard card. So you're getting more value out of your card selection there if you have more conditional cards with higher payoffs when you can select the right time to play them. It also plays into the strongest version of Rakdos, which in my opinion is Moonstone based discard Rakdos, which I'll talk more about later. Claw is also just an all-round solid card, basically just always good, but my pick here is actually Lightning Strike. The value of early game removal goes up the more you back your late game, and I've really backed my late game already because I have the Civil War. So all I'll need to be able to do is remove a few key pieces of early aggression for my opponent, survive some turns. Then if I get to resolve Civil War, the game will basically be over. So I'm definitely taking the strike here and being pretty happy about it. Pick 4, once again rewarded with a ton of options. The rare land, Castle Doom, looks like an auto skip, but I've actually picked this up in 2 of my Rakdos trophies online. There's actually plenty of treasure generators and random artifacts, like your stolen Stark Tech, for instance. In the grindy, outlasting version of Rakdos that I prefer, this can be a serious workhorse. Outside of this, Roxxon Brutes is a great source of mana fixing to make sure I can get that white land for Civil War, but I end up going for the Assault Bot here. Given there are 2 Castle Dooms, one could wheel, and we don't have any treasure generators anyway, so having a 2-drop blocker which can ping down your opponent but also feels really bad to remove is a high value pickup for me. This card often deals over 10 damage in some of my games. Obviously Trickster's Stratagem is a B tier card, but I don't care about blue. Pick 5. This draft is pretty much going exactly as we've planned so far. Not only have we been able to pick up decent cards for our deck, we've had plenty of options, and we've been able to take exactly what our deck wants, not just like a generically decent card for our deck. This is the first pick, which might be a bit controversial. Lightning Strike and Jessica Jones both sit at solid C+. In my opinion, in Rakdos they go up a bit even, but I'm actually taking Moonstone here, currently sitting at I think it's around a D minus sometimes in 17 lands. Moonstone is, in my opinion, the card that single-handedly elevates Rakdos to a tier 1 deck in this format. The card text basically reads, whenever you would discard a card, instead you get to play that card until the end of your next turn. But in Rakdos, there's basically every other card allows you to discard a card to boost the power level of that card. It also synergizes with the main villain mechanic, Connive, which is draw a card, discard a card. So, if you never have to discard, all your cards are effectively getting draw a card, staple onto their card text. That is insane. Building decks which can set up a board stall, drop Moonstone, and then effectively draw like 10 billion cards is the main way I found success in Rakdos, and it's a slam dunk pick for me here. Although I would absolutely love to have a Jessica in my deck, we'll have to say goodbye for now. Next up we get some fixing. We pick up a Fisk Tower, which will help us play our Civil War. We get a Madame Masque, really solid black top end. Synergizes with both Moonstone and the Hydra Assault Bot, and if we pick up something like a Villainous Hideout, you can print a 2/1 villain with Menace every single turn. We get a few nice round picks in the end of pack 1. We get some more fixing, a late Stark Industries Executive, a Kree Sentinel, which fixes even more, and actually the 5/5 with Reach is really good against those pesky blue-white flyers, and miraculously the Rakdos dual land wheels, so our mana base is at this point looking really solid, and we're set up to splash even further outside our colours if any power ends up getting passed to us. Start of pack 2, we open up an amazing pack for us containing both Dark Deed, the best black removal spell in my opinion, and Electra, Daughter of the Hand, an insane black creature which is pretty much always a 2-for-1, killing one of your opponent's creatures when it enters. No chance I'm passing that up, and I slam the Electra. Pack 2, pick 2, again a lot of options here. We've got another Claw, more fixing in Surveillance Room, a Photon Blast Barrage, a Stark Industries Executive, and a removal spell in Hulk Smash. I'm actually not a big fan of Hulk Smash and RAKDOS, as your creatures tend to be small and our fixing is already decent, so I'm taking Photon Blast Barrage here. It's a really good removal spell which can often 2 or 3-for-1 in the late game. It's also really good against blue-white, which often has lots of small, nippy creatures with low toughness that feels really good to sweep up with one removal spell. So it's effectively a pseudo board wipe, which there aren't many in this format. Next pack, another nice removal spell in Widow's Bite, although it's not a great single target removal spell. Again, you can leverage your creatures to get a lot of value out of this spell. True to the identity of red-black in this format, you can combine this with your Menace 2/1 creatures to remove 2 of your opponent's big creatures, and even snipe an additional one if the stars align. So, all about your cards leaning on each other to get the most value. In the rest of the pack, I pick up another Stark Industries Executive, and a Kunlun Warrior, which allows me to sacrifice my treasures. It also discards for Moonstone, and can also dig into my library for Civil War. So all this card selection is going to help me thin my library, draw my bombs. Getting into pack 3, I'm very happy with the shell of my deck overall, but if I'm hoping for anything, I'd want a little more top end and a bit more removal. I have a lot of hand smoothing, a lot of consistency already built in with my land cyclers, but I really need another big engine or high tempo play that'll swing the game for me, as well as some unconditional removal to ensure I can kill my opponent's big threats. And pack 3, pick 1, we open one of the best cards in the format, but it's in white-green. This card is insane. On the front side, it's a 2-mana 2/3, which stops your opponent casting spells on your turn. But when transformed, she's a 6-mana 6/6 reach trample creature with the same effect, but also reads, whenever a creature you control is dealt damage, you can then deal that much damage to any target you want. Aside from being an excellent on-rate card for 6 mana, if your opponent tries to kill this with, say, Repulsor Blast, you then get to deal 6 damage to whatever you want, their creatures or even their life total. It makes creature combat insanely hard, as if they swing in with a big powerful creature, you can just trump block with one of your weak 1/1 tokens or whatever, and they'll still take a huge amount of damage, as it's the amount of damage that your creature has dealt that you reflect. The mana cost is just too restrictive, 2 white and a green. Even with our fixing, I can't play that, so I'm praying that this card goes to someone I don't have to play, and I take Jessica Jones. A decent C-tier card, but not the A+ Hulk I wish I could play. Pack 3, pick 2, and we are beginning to get hooked up. So Hour of Defeat is a really good black removal spell. 4 mana instant speed, kill whatever I want, with some card selection as well. But I'm actually looking at the rare Wolverine here. It's obviously a really strong card. Much like Electra, when it comes down, it fights one of your opponent's creatures, so it's like a removal spell. The difference is it has haste and is a 3/5, so that's going to be a crazy tempo swing in your favor when it comes down. Yes, it is on a splash, but we have so much fixing at the minute, I'm really happy taking the Wolverine, knowing that it's going to swing a lot of games in my favor. Next pick 3, and I just can't believe my luck. We open Super Scroll, another insane black bomb. This card basically just does everything. If you have access to other mana colors, you can make blockers, pump his stats, remove your opponent's creatures, and draw cards. Four cards for 6 mana, by the way. So if you activate that once and you don't die, you basically just won the game. If this survives a turn or more, it's going to be very hard to lose with this card. Yes, it does have a prohibitive casting cost, but with our fixing and our treasure generators, this card is definitely going to shine. This is a great card, exactly what we were looking for, and I'm feeling like forcing black and red has definitely paved the way for me to pick up this insane black and red power in pack 3. In our next pack, very underwhelming compared to those 2 picks. We got to eat our vegetables here. That is to say, we take the reliable 2 mana creature in AIM Synthoids. Looks underwhelming, but the only way that our deck loses is if we get sharked quickly, lose by stumbling on mana, or draw awkwardly, and this is a case of raising our power floor instead of our ceiling. And being an artifact and a villain, you can cast with 2 mana of any color at all is great. I can say in advance, having played these games out, this was actually one of the most important pickups for my deck, and casting it on turn 2 felt amazing, letting me select exactly which 2 cards I needed to draw next. Pick 5, and we're kind of at crossroads. I really deliberated over this pick. I love Bullseye. I think it's so good in Rakdos. It kills your opponent's 2-drop. It can go face. It can generate discard value for Moonstone. It can sacrifice your treasures and random artifacts, and you can pay either black or red mana for it, so it's always castable on 3. But I'm looking at my deck, and I've got to be honest with myself. It's just not your typical Rakdos grindy build that I've been forcing online, where you slowly accumulate advantage and beat them out over time. Our deck actually has bombs. We've picked up some insane power, sometimes off color, and we're basically going to win by reliably casting these bombs. We don't need to slowly generate value. Our cards are just strong. And my 3-drop slot is already quite contested, and I'm thinking maybe I don't even want Moonstone in this deck. Funny because obviously I've said so much about her, but her role in my deck, which is generating value, has already been covered by these insane late game options in Super Scroll. I need to be able to cast my spells to not lose, so I actually take the Subterranean Cavern here. The green-black lands help me get green mana, both for Scroll, but primarily for Wolverine. Next pick, we are truly overjoyed to see a Villainous Hideout, one of the best cards you can get for Rakdos. Our entire deck is basically villains, so it fixes for all of our villains, but most importantly, this line of text, ability of a villain source. So obviously it's going to help us get that triple black to play Super Scroll, but once we get Scroll down, we can activate any of his abilities using Villainous Hideout to fix for the color of mana that we want. And if that wasn't enough, yes, you can also choose any of your villains to connive. In the late game, you've got your top decking all your lands, you can just get rid of them. Connive activates your Madam Mask, makes you a 2/1. Such an underrated, well, I mean, maybe it's not underrated, but just such a good card. And as expected, people aren't drafting villains. I'm hoovering up all these perfect cards for my villains deck. Towards the end of this draft, my edit messes up a little bit, but I end up picking up a Red Room Recruit, as mentioned before. Really solid filtering. We get a Claw, we get another Photon Blast Barrage, and although the Barrage is a very conditional card and requires a certain board state to be good, so normally you probably wouldn't want 2 in your deck, a concept that I'm quite big on is that the more card selection you have, the more conditional cards you can have or you'd want in your deck, as you can chuck them when you don't need them, but keep them around when they're going to be high impact. So as I said before, getting the most value out of your card selection. I.e., if all your cards were basically fine to play, why would you really need to select between them? That's kind of the case for blue-white, really. You don't need that much card selection. All the cards kind of just good on their own. Yeah. Anyway, our last pick is extremely juicy. It's a Red Hulk. It does read badly. It's an expensive card that you can easily trade down on mana for a lot of the removal spells in this format, leaving you at a big mana deficit, but I like it for 2 reasons. Firstly, because our deck has so many must-kill threats. This is another big drop your opponent has to respond to, or they'll be taking a lot of damage with this as a good top and beater. It also has a niche insta-kill combo with Photon Blast Barrage. So Hulk reads whenever it takes damage, gets a counter, then deals damage equal to however many counters it has to any target. So if you curve this into Photon Blast Barrage, which deals 1 damage, kind of like X times copied, you can play Hulk, then play Photon Blast Barrage, targeting your own Hulk for X equals 5. It will deal 1 damage to your opponent, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, then 6, for 21 damage in total. And as Magic games, you begin at 20 life, that should be enough to finish them off if you haven't already dealt enough damage. This combo is actually surprisingly easy to pull off, and it's definitely stolen me a lot of wins online. So yeah, if you stick around for the games, Red Hulk does some serious heavy lifting in my game. So yeah, that was the draft. I think it went very well. I'm very happy. I didn't end up drafting the kind of Rakdos deck that I would like. Slow, stodgy value, but if you open Civil War, if you open Wolverine, you've got to adapt to the kind of cards that you get. So yes, obviously I'm going to play my bombs, I'm going to splash for them, and I'm going to leverage their power to try and close out my games. I would like a little bit more removal, just a little bit, but hopefully with my card selection we can, at least dig to our removal, and 2 of our creatures also are pseudo removal spells with Electro and Wolverine. And I guess technically Red Hulk and Civil War removes creatures. I actually ended up cutting Moonstone at the end. This is pretty unprecedented. Literally, she is usually the star of my decks. I'll try and get 2 in my deck to make sure if she dies, I can continue generating my value, but I had to be real with what kind of deck I ended up getting past. Like, the power in this deck is not going to come from me drawing a million cards. It's going to come from me resolving my bombs. So I had to adapt, had to make sure my fixing was good, and I think that's the strongest version of this deck. And I did end up putting her in for a couple games where I needed the value, and that was good. I also really like the fact that you can discard your land cyclers and exile your land cyclers to get your 5th land, and then play your land cyclers next turn. Baron Strucker also turns all your villains into connivers. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's jump straight into the games. So our first 2 games were against blue-white opponents, and we took them down pretty handily. Our decks feeling very strong at this point, and we're in the finals. But our opponent just so happens to be legendary Pro Tour player Benjamin Peebles-Mundy. Now, I don't know what deck Ben is on at this point, but I'm going to have to play tight as hell if I want to win. So game 1, we open up a hand of 5 lands, a Hydra Assault Bot, and a Kree Sentinel. Not the best hand, but definitely a keep. The Kree Sentinel is a guaranteed playable on turn 5, and our lands in all 4 colours ensures that the rest of our deck will be at least playable when we draw it. We drop a land, and our opponent plays Bruce Banner on turn 1, an insane blue mythic rare, a source of effectively infinite card advantage that we really need to kill before it gains him too much value. The only thing is, we don't have any. Hoping to top deck removal, at some point we go back and forth with him drawing a billion cards with Bruce Banner and developing his board with Ant-Man's army, and me just passing turn until finally on turn 5 I top deck a Photon Blast Barrage. The only thing is, there's not much value in me killing Bruce now. He's already so far ahead on cards, having drawn 3 cards with Bruce, and there's no chance I'm beating him on value here, so with the Superhero Civil War in my hand, I decide to go for the most aggressive play, Rocks on Brutes, which he immediately removes with Trickster's Stratagem and follows it up with a Serpent Specialist. So, although his board is looking dominant, I'm very happy because following turn I get to cast Photon Blast Barrage for X equals 4, wiping out my opponent's entire board of 3 creatures, with a pretty strong hand, so I'm feeling good here, but he is 3 cards up on me from Bruce. So we both spend a couple turns developing our board and trading removal. But I run out a Kree Sentinel, which he can't attack through with his board, and with the Civil War in hand, I think I've got this game on lock, to be honest. I cast Civil War, stealing his 5/5 reach Pet Avengers and 3/3 token, leaving him with just 2 3/2s in play. For good measure, I also drop my Stark Industries Executive, which can help me ping down his life total in a pinch with a Hydra Bot. There's very few cards that could win the game for my opponent at this point, and I have no idea what's in his deck, but for whatever reason, he doesn't seem at all phased, and I'm about to see why. He plays the Mind Stone and taps 2 with Teamwork to cast Murdoch's Crusade, which, for just 2 mana, kills both my Kree Sentinel and my Superhero Civil War, returning him his creatures and killing my 5/5 reach, leaving me with just the Executive and the Hydra Assault Bot. With him still so ahead on cards, I can't handle the massive swing this gives him, and I head into game 2 highly mindful of the fact I can't just rely on Civil War to win me this game. Game 2, we open up a decent opening hand with a possible land cycle on 2 and a creature on 3, so a little bit slow, but it's alright. We also get to curve Baron into Madame Mask if it doesn't get killed, which will be really, really good for us, and our opponent mulligans once, which we're always happy to see. We get off to a decent start and both start developing our board. My Baron gets frozen in ice. I drop a couple creatures and he plays some cheap white creatures as well as a Soulstone. Note, as we predicted, we're facing Bant colours in the final. It's no surprise that an experienced drafter and player like Ben would be able to build an insane deck in these colours in a casual setting, and I'm also super impressed that he managed to fight through Civil War last game. I don't think I've actually ever beaten that card before. In this game, our hand is pure gas. I have Super Scroll, Madame Mask with Villainous Hideout, and the Superhero Civil War in hand. The amount of removal you need to deal with this value is going to be insane, and he's already cast one of them on my Baron. So I cast Madame Mask when my opponent once again drops Bruce Banner. But with one card in hand, he's top decking. Next turn, he gets to draw 4 cards if he taps out, but I'm deathly scared of Murdoch's Crusade again. But I figure if I let him draw, he's much more likely to find it off the top of his deck anyway, if it isn't that one card in hand he's been saving. I cast Civil War for tempo, stealing his Bruce Banner and Wrath Security Officer, and intend to win on tempo. I then get to kill his Bruce with the Civil War's fight effect. I drop Super Scroll, he drops a Pet Avengers, which I'm going to struggle to punch through, but my value is insane, and I make a surprising double block. I think he doesn't expect it on his Pet Avengers, but then he just drops another one. So another 5/5 reach and a 3/2 vigilance, and I'm struggling with the optimal way to close this game out. By this point, he's harnessed his Soulstone and has been flickering his cards every turn for value, and somehow has managed to claw this one back too, playing out Khazar and drawing lands for free off the top of his library. He finally realizes he can flicker his Frozen in Ice onto my Super Scroll with the Mind Stone, and my infinite value engine is gone. I'll have to find another way through. Thankfully, I draw my Photon Blast Barrage, having dug very deep into my library to find it, and wipe his entire board. Somehow, we fought through all his value and are able to deliver the win with Wolverine and a 5-drop in hand. So it's the final, Game 3, and I just want to say this is one of the most insane games I've ever played of Magic. We open up a hand of Hydra Assault Bot, Jessica Jones and Super Scroll, 3 basics and a Surveillance Room. Really strong hand which gives us plenty of options and a potential curve out as well if we top deck Swamps. So we drop Hydra, then Jessica, but our opponent drops turn 2 Soulstone into turn 3 Herbie, drawing him a card and ramping him a land on top. So, on turn 3 he already has 4 lands and a Soulstone, with a Hero in Training and an Agent Maria Hill on the board. And that 2/1 flyer is going to be dealing 2 every turn, and I'm terrified at the advantage that Maria Hill will be able to gain him with teamwork. I recognise we're kind of in a tempo off, so as much as my hand is pure gas, I need to do something this turn. So I actually choose to stun my Jessica Jones, exiling the top 2 cards of my library, praying that I hit a Swamp. That would let me run out Super Scroll this turn. My prayers are somehow answered, and I hit the Swamp and run out my Scroll. It has flying, so it walls my opponent's entire board, including the flyer, and I'm hoping he's forced to cast Murdoch's Crusade on it, so I can draw into Civil War and win that way. I pass turn and immediately sigh as he taps his blue mana and tricks the stratagems my Scroll away, leaving my board extremely vulnerable, buffing his Agent Maria Hill with Connive and swinging in for 5 damage. All I can do now is drop my Madame Mask, ping him 2 more times with a Hydra Bot, making some good bodies that can block, but his board is looking really solid, and I have to pass turn hoping he doesn't find that green land he's been looking for. And apparently God hates me because he says,
"It's good to be lucky."
drops the green land he top decked, and taps 6 mana to cast the sensational She-Hulk, or Jennifer Walters, that insane Selesnya rare we had to pass at the start of Pack 3, and swings in with a really strong attack which guarantees he gets to kill an additional creature of ours. However we block, he gets to shoot something down for 3. In a beautiful show of poetic irony, She-Hulk deals 3 damage to our Jessica Jones after blocks, the card we picked over her, leaving me with just a Hydra Assault Bot to my name, and nothing which can remove She-Hulk. All I can do on my turn is play out my Red Hulk, which at the very least blocks She-Hulk, and I pass turn. He plays a powered up Pet Avengers, adding a 5/5 reach and a 3/2 vigilance to his board, and also swings in with his 2/1 flying Herbie, which I can't actually block with Hulk. Because of Jennifer Walters, he would get to deal the 6 damage that my Red Hulk does to Herbie to any target, and could subsequently just kill my Red Hulk. I have to take the damage, and to be honest, I'm struggling to see a way out of this game. I take my draw step and top deck a land. It's a Villainous Hideout. In our land is a Super Scroll and a Widow's Bite. This is a tricky board state because if I swing, then he just gets to block and deal 6 damage to whoever he wants on my side of the board, leaving him with a massive advantage in tempo. So if I run out Super Scroll, it immediately dies to that reflected damage. On the other hand, if I don't attack, I lose to any attack he makes, as he still just gets to reflect damage taken on his turn. So I go for the high risk blowout. I drop Super Scroll and Hideout, acting as if the last card in my hand is just another land, leaving up a Villainous Hideout, Surveillance Room and a Mountain, helping make my Widow's Bite look like a planned white activation of Super Scroll's ability. I swing with Red Hulk, and my opponent, to give him credit, says,
Alright, I can think of one card that makes this just truly horrendous. So I hope you don't have it. I will double walk.
With these two.
Yeah.
This is expired?
Yeah.
So
He's right. In every universe, he has to make that double block. He can't be playing around this specific combat trick at this point. But I tap out for teamwork, and he calls out the card as I play it.
That's the beginning of the card that's horrendous for me.
Ah! Is that the one?
That's the one.
See, the way that Trample and Death Touch interact mean that I get to assign only one combat damage to each of his creatures, and the rest of my damage will trample through, dealing 4 to his face. This also means that he only gets to deal 1 damage with She-Hulk, and is forced to target my face with it, because he can't kill any of my creatures. In addition, because I played Super Scroll pre-combat, I can tap it for Teamwork 3, giving me both modes of Widow's Bite, and I get to snipe his 3-2, allowing my Red Hulk to survive damage. Red Hulk then deals 1 trample to Pet Avengers, 5 damage to face, and his ability procs, gaining him a counter and dealing damage equal to how many counters he has, which is 1 to Herbie, finishing him off. I breathe a massive sigh of relief as the game feels in hand now. I'm at 8 and he's on 10. At this point, my phone runs out of battery, so I'm going to have to recreate what happens next. He swings with She-Hulk. I'm forced to block with Hydrabot in case he has a combat trick, and he deals 3 trample and 1 reflected to my face, leaving me on 4 life. He then plays Gorilla, an unassuming 2-2 reach creature which seems fine until I realise it effectively loses me the game. If I double swing, he blocks my scroll and my Red Hulk deals 7 damage to his face, which doesn't kill him, and he reflects 4 scroll damage to my face, killing me. If I try to shoot down the gorilla with Skrull's red ability pre-combat, he then gets to deal that 4 damage to my face, killing me before I can swing. If I just attack with Red Hulk, he blocks with gorilla and deals 7 damage to my face. I also can't just pass turn as he wins on attacks next turn with guaranteed reflected damage, even if She-Hulk dies in combat. I'm all over my options here again and again and again, and I just can't see a way through. Until finally I do. I activate Super Skrull's red ability, targeting my own Red Hulk, which then gains a counter and deals damage equal to the number of counters on him to Gorilla, which is 2, meaning that She-Hulk can only deal 2 damage to my face instead of 4. He has no blockers as Jennifer is tapped out, allowing me to swing in for lethal damage. I breathe a massive sigh of relief and shake Ben's hand for one of the most epic sets of Magic I've played in a long, long time. Thank you guys for watching. We're super small, but we're going to be uploading these vids regularly now, so please do subscribe and comment your thoughts on the videos. If I miss a trick anywhere, or if you disagree with my RAKDOS theory, or if you just like the video, really helps us out. We're Pack 1 Pick 12. I'm Charlie. Big love to all of you for making it this far, and see you in the next one.